Hello, future tourists. I think you are fine because now we are going to talk about something that might sound interesting to you. You might have thought a lot about the question that is concerning us today, and so we will give you the answer to most of these questions.
We will explain you who Thomas Cook was as a person and as a tour operator. On the other side, we will talk about the hate of Airbnb and the electronic distribution channels in front of the traditional ones.
Moreover, we will expose how the companies have left their dependence on tour operators and their search for new clients adapted to the informatic changes. And finally, how has the COVID pandemic affected these changes?
First of all, it is important to know who Thomas Cook was. He was an English businessman who is best known for founding the travel agency Thomas Cook and Son. This travel agency was founded by Thomas Cook, who carried a business on Fleet Street, London in 1965. In 1872, he formed a partnership with his son and renamed the travel agency as Thomas Cook and Son. Thomas Cook is not only a travel agency, it is also a group that operates into different segments, as a tour operator and as an airline. Thomas Cook provided overseas package holidays, which include flight, hotel, Thomas Cook Airline, car, hire, and travel insurance. In relation to the UK economy, Thomas Cook contributed to it by providing jobs and creating more inbound and outbound tourism. On September 23rd, the company failed because of clearing a debt burden of more than $1 billion that had almost destroyed it in 2011. The tour operator collapsed after 178 years in business. It is important to highlight that in 2011, the company suffered a financial crisis that almost made it disappear. It was thanks to some banks that expanded its credit line, making it possible to gain liquidity and time to restructure itself. As it is seen in the graphic, its shares registered a stock prices fall almost 75% of their value. In 2018, Thomas Cook almost collapsed because of the problems they had due to different factors, such as the heat wave that reduced the tourist demand and Brexit. Those problems summed to the others were so important that the company could never get back on its feet. Little before the company's surrounding, they tried to obtain funds to sustain the company during winter months. Although company directives tried to achieve those funds, meeting with creditors on September 21st and trying to negotiate a last-minute deal, which was unsuccessful. We can say that the efforts to rescue Thomas Cook were too little and too late. In numbers, the collapse of Thomas Cook supposed 22,000 jobs at risk worldwide, 9,000 in the UK, 150,000 British holidaymakers to be repatriated, 450,000 customers affected, and 34 planes owned. The Balearic Islands were also affected by the collapse of Thomas Cook, which brought 1.24 million of the 16 million tourists who visited the island last year. As Thomas Cook took 90 days to pay for bookings, many establishments have unpaid bills dating back to July, with Mallorca's Hotel Business Federation of Mallorca estimating that the total debt owed by Thomas Cook to hotels on the island rises to 100 million euros. Airbnb, how it started. Roman Hughes was the woman who started with this idea. She began by renting a room in her house, and this went to more. Business travelers reclaimed more and more this type of rooms because of the quiet atmosphere. How it's growing? Airbnb has grown exponentially since its founding in 2008 and is expected to soon go public in an initial public offering that would rank it among the world's most valuable hotel companies. In fact, US consumers spent more money on Airbnb last year than they did on Hilton and its subsidiaries, the second biggest hotel chain in the world, which was founded a century ago. In cities, the number of properties on Airbnb surged from just 51 in its first year of operation to more to 50,000 5 years later, and to over half a million in 2017. Airbnb continues to grow its property supply around the world, and it represents a permanent challenge to hotel chains. While there are efforts to regulate the home rental that make up Airbnb properties, and other sharing platforms. Decisions on how to regulate these platforms have not been straightforward.
Before starting to explain the traditional channels and the electronic ones, it is important to have a base knowledge of what a distribution channel is and what we are talking about when we refer to a tourist distribution channel. A distribution channel is formed by business and independent organization structures that go from the product's origin point to the consumer. It consists of people and companies that interfere in a product property in the way to the final consumer or the industrial user. In those channels, there are different intermediaries that form them. Those intermediaries are distribution companies placed between the manufacturers and the final users. In most cases, those companies are independent from the manufacturers. Tourist distribution channels establish the communication between providers and consumers, giving them information and the mechanism that allows the consumers to manage their books. Between those distribution channels, we will distinguish two important groups: the traditional ones and the e-distribution, which is booming in recent times. Traditional channels of distribution of tourist services require the customers to obtain information in the form of a leaflet, catalog, or folder and make the reservation by phone, fax, travel agency, etc. Moreover, they have to finalize the transactions at a bank, post office, or the same travel agency. The dynamic development of tourist services had supposed the need of the providers to adapt their offer to the tourist demand. That means that they are forced to constantly modernize and optimize distribution channels in order to satisfy more demanding consumers. In this point, the internet gains importance from the consumer's point of view. The purchase of a service, the touristic one in this case, entails a risk, and consumers, when having to purchase a service, the first thing they do is to look after information about this service. That is why the access to information nowadays results so important for consumers. The use of the internet to provide services to buyers who have access to the network has significantly changed the structure of channels, their functions and costs. The development of information technologies, especially the internet, and the constant effort to improve the productivity and quality of services offered have contributed to a significant improvement of this process at any time and place. Talking now about the modern distribution channels, we can stand out three of the most important. Those are using televisions, especially TV channels where tourist offers are sold. It includes film tours, reports of stays, geographic and travel programs, and more. Apart from that, we cannot forget the most important, the advertisements. Using the internet, this channel has become one of the most important, if not the most one. We can say that this channel is currently experiencing a golden age. It includes websites like hotels, activities, and transport pages where information and bookings can be done. Profiles in social media that go from the provider's profiles to the customer's ones, passing through influencers that published their experience in a destination. And finally, reservation systems such as Booking.com, TripAdvisor, Trivago, etc., used to book a couple of elements of the trip in the same place. And finally, using global reservation systems. Those systems are primarily used to sell hotel rooms through intermediaries who have access to the booking system. In summary, the advantages of modern e-distribution channels consist mainly of faster, easier, and more convenient access to information, improving the quality and timeliness of the information obtained, bigger possibilities of offer selection, and opportunities to purchase services at a lower price. As we can see in this graph, online booking agencies are nowadays the most important tourist distribution channels, and tour operators or travel agencies that were so important in the Fordist era have been nowadays relegated to the fourth place under phone and email.
First of all, it's important to mention that the most traditional ways to make a hotel booking are through telephone calls or directly in the hotel, if the client wants a more personal treatment. Another way is through the email, but is the least common, although the way it is most used is online, either through the hotel's own websites, agency, or different reservation websites. 53.4% of travelers resident in Spain aged between 18 and 75 who book a hotel on their own do via the internet, according to a report by Segitur and the ITH. Nowadays, TUI, Touristic Union International, is the largest group in the tourism sector worldwide, being present throughout the European Union. TUI owns travel agencies, incoming agencies, hotels, airlines, cruise ships, and tour operators. It is also a major container shipping company. In numbers, TUI owns approximately 3,500 travel agencies, 79 tour operators in 18 countries, 7 airlines with 155 aircraft, 37 reception agencies in 31 countries, 12 hotel chains in 28 countries with 285 hotels and over 163,000 beds, 10 cruise ships, 30 million customers in 20 countries, and 48,000 workers. TUI was born out of the Association of Small and Medium-Sized Tourism Enterprises, which was Touropa, Charno Reason, Hummel Reason, and Dr. Tiges. TUI served over 90 million customers last year. It had a turnover of around 20 billion euros and achieved a net profit of almost 380 million. It has 310 hotels and 240,000 beds, with well-known brands such as Riu, Robinson, Iberhotel, or Group Hotel. Its fleet is made up of 140 aircraft carrying some 13 million passengers a year, making it the seventh largest European airline and the only one to fly Boeing's 787 Dreamliner. It has 13 ships with 3 brands, TUI Cruises, Thomson, and High-Lloyd. Its largest single shareholder is Alexei Mordashov, with 13% of the shares, while the Riu family owns 3%. With these data, we can see how in recent years the TUI company has reached a high level of relevance. Moving now to some of the most important pages when booking hotels, travels, and more, we can talk about Booking or Trivago as an example of them. Booking is a travel fare aggregator and a travel meta search engine for accommodation bookings. The website has over 30 million listings in 140,000 destinations in 229 countries and territories worldwide. Every day, more than 1.5 million rooms are booked on this website. But how does the website system work? Booking.com is based on a system in which the client makes the reservation of the accommodation or hotel and pays once he arrives at the establishment. The establishment then contacts the platform to settle accounts on the basis of 15% of the commission. Booking therefore operates as an IDS, Internet Distribution System, and not as an OTA, Online Travel Agency. It functions as a travel web portal that generates an immediate connection of consumers to travel sites. It is a set of networks that allows different hotels and accommodations to offer their offer in real time on the internet. Another important web page is Trivago, a German transnational technology company specialized in internet-related services and products in the fields of hotels, accommodation, and meta search. As a hotel price comparison website, Trivago makes money from advertising partners primarily by using a cost per click (CPC) business model. Booking platforms, hoteliers, and other providers list rates and advertise on the Trivago site, paying for clicks received from Trivago users. In this graph, we can observe that cancels were up to the 50% in March. That is because of the appearance of COVID-19. In March, confinement started in many regions, and that supposed a downgrade on tourist demand. From 2 to 15 March, many tourists cancelled those bookings that were closer to those days. March and April were the two most affected months. As farther the result was, less percentage of them were cancelled. Due to COVID-19, companies have had to adapt. This means changes in the way they operate. In this graph, it is shown changes that companies have suffered. The most important ones are telework, e-commerce, and delivery services. It is also important to mention that because of the pandemic, new products and providers have emerged satisfying new demand necessities.